This is the Inside Pitch with Peter Caliendo. Innovative thoughts from baseball's best coaching minds from around the world. Brought to you by Light Up Media Group. Now, your host, former USA Baseball National Team Coach, Peter Caliendo.
Welcome to all listening around the world to the Inside Pitch, live from Mulhouse, France. I want to welcome all our guests. We are thrilled. We've been here for a couple days working with Mulhouse Baseball Club with all the players and coaches, and we are excited because there's been a great weekend for us. The players have been great. The coaches have been awesome. Baseball is live and going well in all of France. And first of all, I'd like to introduce a very good friend of mine. We've known each other for a few years now. He's a very good baseball man. He's the former president of Mulhouse Baseball Club. He's also been playing since 1992, and he's the manager of the Mulhouse Club. And not to mention, he's also the board member of the European Baseball Coaches Association. This was something that had been started 12 years ago, where coaches from all over Europe come into certain locations and spend a weekend learning about baseball, making friends. And I want to just say welcome to Bertrand Rue from France. Welcome, Bertrand.
Hey, hello.
Bertrand, don't worry about it. I know you're a little nervous. It's your first time on the show, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's good. So, hi everybody. It's a pleasure to be with Pete Caliendo, and it's fun. It's fun to have the first podcast in the U.S.
And listen, fans and everybody listening around the world, this is not Arnold Schwarzenegger in disguise of Bertrand Rue, okay? This is the real Bertrand. So I know a lot of people out there thinking, man, this has got to be Arnold. Well, that's not Arnold. And also with us, this is a great special honor to have him. It's my first time that I've ever worked with him. Great history of baseball. We'll talk about him as we go throughout the show. But first of all, I'd like to introduce, he's a former Major League Baseball catcher with the Boston Red Sox. He's coached over 25 years in professional baseball, which is an accomplishment in itself. He's been with 4 or 5 pro teams, but the beauty of it, lately he's been with the St. Louis Cardinals for 6 years as one of their hitting coaches throughout the system. This guy can talk to coaches. He can talk to players. He's got passion for the game. As we go on through the show, you're going to learn a lot more about him. And interesting enough, when he was brought in to come here and speak in France, he's also French-Canadian, even though he's born in the U.S. And let me introduce to you Roger LaFrancois.
Peter, thank you very much for having me on. I think this is a great program, what you started, and it's great to be here in France with Bertrand and yourself. We just got done with a great 2-day clinic with some really nice players, and the future is really bright here for baseball in France and the USA. And I just wanted to thank you personally for all you do for not only baseball in the United States, but making it worldwide and bringing it to France, and that's very, very special. So I'm looking forward to talking to you here in the next 45 minutes.
And guess what? You know, we're going to start. This is great because we have 3 of us here, and we've worked all weekend, so we kind of got to know each other even more, which it's been a lot of fun. And, you know, I want to start with Bertrand because of the fact that I want you to tell us a little bit about, you know, baseball in France, and then about your club and the development of baseball, how it's going, and how, you know, since you started, which was, you know, quite a few years ago, since 1992, when you guys got the club going. So explain a little to us about France and baseball.
So, in France, baseball is on the main sports as soccer or handball or other sports. So it's more difficult a little bit to organize and to develop the baseball. But we get it, and right now it's more played in the school, and so we have a facility a little bit to develop. And major problem is to have a big field, because a baseball field looks like 2 soccer fields, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult with the city to manage this. But a lot of clubs get it, and we in Mulhouse, we are waiting on a new facility, and I think in 2 or 3 years we will have a good facility. So it will help to develop the baseball. And Since '92, I was playing the first time and begin to coach a little bit later. So I saw that the level of the baseball progressed a lot, and the goal that I try to do here in my local situation is to have well-known coaches and that they try to help me to develop the baseball.
And the first time Bertrand and I met was through the EBCA, the European Baseball Coaches Association Coaches Educational Program, where it's an exchange program. They called me and asked me would I want to host a coach from Europe. And I thought it'd be interesting to do that. And I showed up at the airport. Well, it wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he looked pretty big, and he's definitely his size. And he spent about 10 days in my house, and we had a blast, and we went all over Chicago. We also got him involved with talking to coaches, and he did a great job. We worked with coaches throughout the 10 days, but at the same time, he was there also to take notes and learn from the different coaches from the Chicagoland area. Not only that, but then he also, just to give you the commitment of European coaches, and especially Bertrand coming from Mulhouse, he also went down to spring training with the Minnesota Twins and spent time with Minnesota in their spring training site, doing different things with them and also learning things. So obviously there's a big commitment in baseball here, and we're going to tell you more about it. What I want to shift a little bit here is to Roger, because Roger, I'm going to ask you, you just spent 2-3 days with coaches and players and doing that work, and want to get your impression of what you thought of the coaches and the players that were involved in the camp that we were working with.
Well, I'll tell you what, first of all, I feel very blessed because with the St. Louis Cardinals, we have tremendous facilities, during spring training and during our season. And when I came here, just the passion that Bertrand had, the president and other people surrounding this, I was very, very impressed with. I mean, to the point where, the facilities they have to work in aren't the best. The field situation could be better. Some of the things they have to work with could be a little better, but they overcome that. They overcome that with their enthusiasm, their passion. I was especially impressed with the way the kids themselves responded to our instruction. We were there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, and the way they paid attention all that time, drills, when we talked, we had a little break, and then we came right back down. I mean, it was just, I was very, very impressed with that. And that's a credit not only to the players themselves, the kids that we coached these last couple of days, but also, the coaches and the program itself. And that's only going to get better, and it starts with the culture and, to bring that enthusiasm and passion each and every day. And I think that's what I was most impressed with.
We're going to talk about culture in a little bit, and I'm glad you brought it up, Roger, because for all you coaches out there, just so you know, the actual weekend, all the coaches spent time in a gym. So we went over topics about whether it be hitting or pitching or catching or throwing or practice organization, but the coaches actually went through all the drills. That's one of the best ways to learn, is to actually do the drill. And then I also got a chance to watch Roger work with hitters, so now they understand how you work with players, how you say certain things, how you make adjustments in their swing and all that. And we're going to get into that. But the topic tonight, and it's great to be here, but the topic tonight we thought was interesting because the Cardinals have had a tremendous, tremendous history, as everybody knows, especially in the United States and now hopefully around the world, the culture and the coaching that they have at all levels. And what we're interested in is, we know La Russa and some others, and now there's Matheny. We're interested in finding out, how do you guys create that culture? Select your coaches. How do you keep that going throughout the system? Because it seems like, nothing against the coaches, but it seems like you pick quality coaches, and when you put them in that spot, the organizational structure kind of fits perfect with them. Where does that start? How do you do all that?
Well, I think it started a long, long time ago, and it starts with Branch Rickey, who was the originator of the Cardinals way back, and it's brought on today. And we talk about the Cardinals, we talk about the Cardinal way, we talk about Stan Musial, Bob Gibson, Enos Slaughter, those type of people, Tony La Russa. And I think our owner, Mr. DeWitt, and our general manager, John Mazalak, have developed that culture over the years, especially the last 6 or 7 years since I've been involved with the St. Louis Cardinals. And it starts not only with player development, which is a big part. I think we have a lot of good coaches, a lot of experienced coaches. We're bringing on a lot of new coaches with our minor league director, Gary LaRock, who does an outstanding job. And also, not only that, I think it starts with our ownership, Mr. DeWitt, John Mazalak, our general manager. Our scouting department does a tremendous job. Our major league staff, led by Mike Matheny and his staff, and the type of players we produce every single year. You talk about a culture. I think the culture starts with our minor league program. The Cardinals don't go after many minor league free agents. We don't go after many big league free agents, okay? What we try to do is to develop players year after year after year, and we can lose an Albert Pujols. We can lose a Carlos Beltran. We can lose a John Lackey, but we keep on replenishing that with the Stephen Piscotty or Randall Gerchik and those type of people. So I think that's a credit not only to our ownership, our general manager, our player development staff, and also our scouting department. So it's something that evolves through years and years and years. George Kissel was a big part of that. He was a big part of the Cardinals, and to be honest with you, I've been with several organizations, and I'm very, very proud to be associated with the Cardinals. And we call it the Cardinal Way, but it's not just one person, it's not two people. It's something that evolved over the years, and we continue to do that every year, and I'm very proud of that.
Now, I know on our show there's not a lot of people, there's not many people, I should say, that are familiar with European baseball in general, even though it's growing a lot. And as we spend a lot of time here, I know myself, I've spent a lot of time in Europe working with coaches. There's not a lot of difference when it comes to volunteers in the United States of America, as far as volunteers that are moms and dads who don't get paid for playing the game or coaching the game. And between that and the coaches that I see throughout Europe, because a lot of coaches in Europe are also volunteers, they have the similarities where they lack playing a lot of games. They lack sometimes equipment. They lack the fields. They lack practice time. Sometimes even in the U.S., they lack the knowledge on how do you work with young kids. So now we saw a little bit, here this weekend. The big question I think we want to ask is, how do you think we're going to, and this is to Roger to start with, how do we create the culture in Europe? If you had a club and you were maybe want to give some advice to Bertrand, how do you start that culture? And then we'll ask Bertrand how he started to develop his culture with his players. But is there anything you can give advice-wise that could help?
Yeah, I think I can, and basically it starts with the love of the game and the passion of what you have. I think that overcomes a lot of things. Your knowledge level might not be 100%, but I think if you have that passion and that love for the game and your love and your ability to teach kids, that goes a long, long way. And to me, that's what coaching is all about. And it starts with, basically with the fundamentals. It's funny. I mean, some of the things I work with these kids here this past weekend is what I do with my players with the Cardinals. I didn't do anything differently. Even I'm dealing with older players and talented players and minor league players with the potential to play in the big leagues. But I approached it the same way with working with these young kids the last few days. We started with fundamentals. We started very, very basic things. When we talked about the swing, we talked about balance and rhythm and tempo and the finish and things like that. And I gave them some absolutes to work with. And these are the types of absolutes from the hitting side I work with my players with the Cardinals every single day. But I think it starts with the love of the game, a passion for the game. And I think by doing that, that takes care of itself. And I think you can instill that proper attitude to these young players here in France, whether it's in France or the United States.
And coaches, parents, and players around the world, I hope you picked that up, because that was something I picked up at the clinic. The question that I had brought up at the clinic that I wanted to know, I said, Roger, I mean, the guys that you worked with and the gals that you worked with here, did you teach them any different than you did at the big league level? And a lot of times we want to be sophisticated. We want to give them information that's out of this world, that's different, that sounds great, but what about just sticking to the basics And it was great to hear that even at the major league level, at the minor league level, that they're keeping it basic because they don't want to complicate things. They want to keep it simple, even for the players, because it becomes a mental game more than anything. And if you bog them down with too much information, it's just too much even for the best of players. Now, Bertrand, I'd like for the world to know a little bit about how you've started a culture, what you believe in with young players, how you start with them at a young level to get them excited about the game, to keep them in the game, and maybe even how you recruit players in Europe to get them to play the game a little.
So it's a little bit different than in the US because with a young player, they have different facility to play other sports, and the main sport is soccer. So sometimes people who come to the baseball are people who want to try something other. And so what we the first, I think that they try to try to know when they come is about the American culture. They want to see it's a U.S. sports. They know a little bit about the uniform, and they look like great with the uniform. And so that's the reason why, first of all, when we were created with a friend, the new young team, we were very careful about how the player looks like. We were very pay attention about that the jersey had to be independent, that the old player had the same casket and the cap and the same cap, and so that's that they look great. And after it's more to be the game a little bit fun and a little bit different than soccer or some other sports. And what is interesting, what I learned with the years with the kind of coaching in the US is that a lot of coaches are taking all the positive thing what happens. And here, sometimes in Europe, you have a lot of coaches who are talking just about the negative things. And I think when you are talking about positive things, you are a little bit better, and you make the player in better situation to progress. You have to talk about negative things, but at the right moment. You can talk about all negative when a player is in success. So he is more open-minded about what happens. And when he had a bad game or a bad practice, you can talk about the positive thing. And so that's the reason why that I had a lot of years. And I think about the baseball, the most thing who is interesting for me is it's like the real life. And you have I played a lot of years team sports. I make high-level competition in soccer, in handball, and a few years when I was young. And it's the only sport when you have to manage mistakes, errors, failure. It's the only that I get. And so that's very interesting for the kids and for the adults too, because it's the same way than life. Life is like this. You are more in trouble during your life than in success. Most of the person like this. So it's a good way to learn about. And after about the game, it's crazy for us, because it's you can be in the game, winning the game, and just a little details makes you break, and after you lose the game. So you have to pay attention to so many details that you have to progress, you have to learn, you have to improve yourself, you have to be how can I say that? Nothing is. It's a difficult term to find in English for me, but you have to learn every time. You have to learn. You have to progress. You have to learn something else. And the second thing that I manage for them myself is with the club organization that I was managing is if you have the best people who can help you, try to get with them. Okay, we are non-profit players, but there is no reason that you cannot go with the best players or the best coaches and bring them in France and something like this. It's just try to do it. It can happen or not. You have some, it's like walking on a way, and you have two options. You take the good one or the bad one. And so that, I think what I want to do is more that the level grow up, and that you take the best advices, and that we can make progress the the baseball. And what is very important for me is to be thankful about the U.S. coaches I've made in all my career, because it's something new that in baseball they share all about the game. It's a little bit different with European coaches in other sports. The other sports, sometimes they keep their knowledge because they didn't want to give it to the opponent team. Here, I think all the coaches that I met in my life in baseball, all they share with me. And so that's very important to make the game better in Europe.
Outstanding. And for all our audience out there, you guys have listened to the show now for a while, and you know that, our big thing is thinking outside the box and thinking about new ways to educate. Now, you heard Bertrand, and now you know why they have a love for the game. And when you have a love for the game, you have a lot of passion. And I've had a chance, to work with Bertrand, and I see a lot of things that he does isn't necessarily always the way it's been done in the past. He thinks in new ways to make his players better. He thinks in new ways to make the club better. They are always thinking about new ways to make the organization better, and that's something that we're going to talk about. And I want to shift a little bit here for a second here and discuss a little bit, with Roger. We were talking about in one of the sessions about, I mentioned to you about PFPs, which is, and for our fans out there, it's pitchers fielding practice. We took that because I spent some time in spring training with different clubs, and once in a while I would see them go through the motions and not really, when they do a drill, not really do it full blast and not really understand why they didn't do it that way. And Roger said to me, well, that's not the cardinal way. The cardinal way is different. And I want you to explain that a little bit, because I think you'll explain it a lot better than I will.
Yeah, we were going over that the other day when we were talking about PFPs and 7 ways to cover first base or things like that. And if I've had the opportunity to observe a lot of our major league spring trainings, and when I go down there, whether it was Tony La Russa or whether it was Mike Matheny, I was just so impressed the way they go about their business day in and day out. I mean, this is a professional team, and I've seen a lot of other professional teams, unfortunately, just go through the motions, during a PFP or doing drills. This is not the way we go about things with the Cardinals, and I'm very proud to say that. And it's not, and it comes from like a La Russa or a Mike Matheny, but it also comes from the older players like an Adam Wainwright, and who's one of our top pitchers, and guys like that, Yadier Molina, and those older players kind of take charge of the situation. You don't see many people during spring training just go through the motions and just half-ass things. They do things the right way, and I think they call the cardinal way. Well, that's part of it. It's grinding out at bats. It's doing things fundamentally and being very, very sound in how they approach things. And I think that goes a long way. And I think not only during spring training, but they carry that approach on during the season. It's just a mental approach on how they approach things, and which is a credit to not only the coaching staff, the management, but the players themselves. The Wainwrights, the Molinas, the Matt Hollidays, and the older players who Matt Carpenter. And they're not like superstar players, though Yachty and Holiday have superstar status. But you look around our lineup, it's just guys who just grind it out day in and day out, and I think that's just a credit to the organization.
And that, now, if we take that and we say, okay, a club in France, a travel team in Florida, a travel team in another country, a high school, can that culture, or can that, what we were talking about here, can that be done at all levels, or is it just because it's major league players are getting paid and you can hold that, or it's a different system?
Oh God, no! I think I can definitely be taught and how you just start the program now. And I'm impressed with here, even in France and Mulhouse here, my first time visiting here. I see, sure, the talent level is not at the minor league level or at the major league level, but I see them establishing that culture from the coaching staff, how they go about their business, how their practices are organized day in and day out. And it just they put that structure in place. The kind of kids that we were fortunate to have this weekend, I was very, very impressed with. And if you stick with that environment, from day one, I think and positively, I know this for a fact, I think will eventually grow. It will grow. The kids will get better. The organization will get better. And I think that's whether it's at the major league level, minor league level, or here in France. And I think that's what we all strive for as coaches.
Now, I want to jump a little bit because I want to talk about hitting and catching just for a brief point here. Especially, I want to ask, when you're working with a hitter, whether it's a major league hitter, minor league hitter, or you've got a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or whoever it may be, what is the best way to begin working with a young hitter to get them understand the swing and some of the techniques that they're working on?
First of all, I try to go over what I call the absolutes of hitting, and it starts with a balanced, workable stance, right on through the weight shift, the swing itself, the finish, and I try to basically kind of talk a little bit about that. But the most important thing I leave with the players, I don't try to change them right away. Basically, I try to see what they're doing, and I might pick out one or two things in their swing, but it all starts with balance. Balance is a big key in what we're doing, just their setup alone. And I think if I can start with that and then get into other areas of the swing. But I try not to go too fast. Even with my players with St. Louis in the minor league system, I take my time, and I always try to leave with a positive frame of mind. We don't want to be negative all the time. Certain things that need correction, but I give them drills to correct certain flaws in their swing. But when they leave that cage or when they leave that day, they're always feeling really, really good about themselves. And that's what I tried to do here in Mulhouse the 2 days I was here. I didn't give it that. We covered probably around 10, 12, 15 drills I gave them. I didn't get into a lot of drills. But again, I gave them some basic stuff that they can work on, try to simplify things. Pick out one or two things in their swing I think they can improve upon and just kind of go from there. But I think sometimes we have, as coaches, we have a tendency to overcoach and overanalyze, and I think we got to be very, very careful at that. I find myself sometimes going a little too fast, and when I do that, I try to slow down a little bit. Tell myself to slow down and just pick out one or two things and then kind of go from there. Hitting's a process. It's not done overnight, and it takes a lot of time to become a good hitter. But I think give them one or two things each and every day. I think they're going to be better hitters, and they're going to feel better about themselves.
Now, one of the things I picked up, and I think everybody around the world that's listening can pick it up from Roger, is that enthusiasm. And you mentioned, you being positive, making sure that it sounds like a mental thing. If you can get them to believe in it and believe in themselves, they can be a lot more successful.
Absolutely. I think that's what hitting's all about, and that's what playing sports is all about. I never considered myself a great player, but I felt good about myself. I felt confident in my ability, and that's how I think I survived going up in the minor leagues and playing in the major leagues. Just to instill that confidence. When I'm working with a kid in the cage, like I tell them, when they leave that cage, and they're going out, for their daily routine, or they're going to go into the game, I just want them to feel that they could hit John Lester, they could hit Roger Clemens. They're just feeling so good about themselves. And if I can instill that positive attitude each and every day going into the game, because in baseball, like in life, we deal with a lot of failure day in and day out. So I'm not only working on the mechanics in the cage, I'm working on their mental approach and their positive attitude. And if I can instill that, I've done my job.
Now, and I know when I was younger, one of the things I believe, and you can address this, I believe that hurt me a lot, and I see this in many areas, not just here but in other parts of the world, is that I was very mechanical, and I kept working on mechanics. And sometimes, can we overdo the mechanics?
Absolutely, I think we can too. It's one thing, especially with new players. When we draft a player with the Cardinals the first year, we don't really talk too much about mechanics. A lot of the guys we draft out of high school or college, they've been very, very, very successful, and we kind of let them go a little bit before we even try to change them a little bit, And I think the worst thing we can do with hitters or players themselves is basically there's a tendency of overcoaching. I need to see. It takes a while for me to know a player, and I think it takes a while for a player to know me. And by doing that, I get a better understanding not only of the player's personality, I get a better understanding of his swing. Nothing worse when you see a player for the first time and you try to correct him. Give him a little time, see him a little bit. A guy might have a little unorthodox setup, and he might have a little unorthodox swing. But if he has success at it and he's doing it real well, kind of let him go. Just let him go, okay, until he fails. But if you change a guy right away, too quick, too fast, you're going to lose him. And once you lose him, it's tough to get him back.
Now, a lot of volunteer coaches, which, again, we said earlier, all over the world, there's volunteer coaches that give their time, the love for the game. One of the things that they learn from coaches that come from, whether it's the U.S. or Cuba or Canada, or it doesn't matter, is the batting tee. The batting tee is so important in the development of your swing, but yet a lot of the young kids don't believe in the batting tee. They think it's only for T-ballers, and if I'm not a T-baller, then I shouldn't be using a batting tee. And our coaches that are volunteers, they're not major league coaches, they're not minor league coaches, so it's very difficult for them to communicate, that the batting tee is for everybody. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The batting tee, soft toss, whatever it might be, every player's a little different. But you go to a major league spring training, which I've been fortunate to be involved with and to observe. When I go to spring training, we have major league hitters hitting off the batting tee. We have major league hitters doing soft toss. They do the same drills that I kind of implemented here in the last few days over here in Mulhouse. So it's nothing different. There's no magic formula. It's basic things. And sometimes I might let the player go a little bit and let him swing the bat off the batting tee just to get a feel for what he's doing, because hitting's so much a feel. Feeling your body move the right way. And what I try to do is with our players is the motto that we go by with the Cardinals is listen, I forget, show me, I remember, and involve me, I understand. So when I approach my hitters, I always try to involve them in building their swing. And some of the questions I ask them is not so much you got to do this, put your hands here, you got to do this. I always ask them, how does it feel? What do you think? I want the players have the answers, whether it's a young player or a major league player or a minor league player. They have the answers. We just have to get the answers out of them. So sometimes I think we have a tendency, like I said, overcoach, be over analytical. Just take our time, take it step by step, and I think in the long run, players in the long run are going to benefit from that.
And coaches, I hope you pick that up and that batting tee is good for everybody, and they use them all the time. And not only do they use them, I believe, in spring training, but they also use them during the game. Some of the DH hitters hit off a batting tee. Some do it prior to a game. So they're using them constantly. And now I want to get Bertrand's perspective of how they use the batting tee, how he gets them to use the batting tee, because sometimes players, again, even in Europe, may object to using it because they think it's a T-ball issue.
Okay, so this year we make some adjustment about just a little thing about hitting in my team organization. It was because they had some work on the field, and so we were not so much be able to make some live BP, because when we were hitting too strong, we were hitting in a tennis court, and so it was dangerous for the person playing tennis. And so we decided to adjust, to be flexible, and to we try to see about how we can manage a little bit more live BP. So I decided during the season to adjust and to make more than 60% our hitting session on tees work, just on the field, make work the hitters on the hitting with tees in the holes. So I put some cones between third and second, between third and shortstop and second and first, and they had to hit every hole, some line drive in the holes, and so to go one time from third to one, and after back from one to third, and do it with soft toss too. And the result was very impressive for my team, because I saw that at the end of the season we were just hitting more singles. We were hitting more singles in second. We were more hitting in the holes, because they had some more time to visualize how to hit in holes. So if you put some cones, it's better than to put the fielders on the field, because the field are moving, And so when the hitters is focused to hit between two cones and the three holes of the infield, he is more focused on where he wants to put the ball and more focused on the swing because he wants to put the ball in the holes and to make a line drive. And so that was working. And I'm a T-ball fan, it's a better way to make your swing better, it's very simple. If you want to teach something, you have first to teach something when the ball is not moving, so that the best choice to move to make know how to hit to young player or something like that is easier, and you can more adjust when the ball is not moving. And after you go step by step to the live BP, okay? And so it works. The BP works, and this year we made just a little bit like 60% about toss and BP, and the rest was a little bit batting cage, a little bit live BP, but the most of all it was like this.
Super. And listen, we are coming down to the end of the show. We wish we could spend time here all day, but we do have to get some sleep. I've got an early flight tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. I know Roger has one at 11. He gets to sleep in a little bit longer, but we want to be with you, our fans out there, for a long time. We're gonna be back because we're gonna finish with one more little topic, but in the future, we plan on going to the St. Louis Cardinals spring training and interviewing Roger again. Hopefully Bertrand can meet us there, and we're going to also get a chance to meet some other Cardinals and be able to talk to them about how they work on the development. But the last thing I want to talk about, and notice we haven't talked mechanics here. We talked about the tee. We talked about the culture, of the club, how you develop a culture. But I want to really hit on, players struggle, obviously, when they hit. Now, they can hit 4-line drives, and they could be 0 for 4, and they're struggling. They think they're struggling mentally. The batting average, I want to hit on that because I know Roger and I got a chance to talk about this also, and I heard about it from others, the batting average. And, how do you deal with that when a player, especially a young player, because I'm sure that at your level, the mental aspect isn't any different than a high school kid or a youth kid because they all deal with the same issue. How do you deal with that? And tell us a little bit about, when they struggle, how do you talk to them?
Yeah, I think younger players and older the younger players, the older players have the same fear as younger players. They deal with the same anxiety. They're dealing with the same failure day in and day out. And how we approach it with the Cardinals, is basically this. We don't put that much weight on batting average. We really don't. What we talk about more is quality at bats, getting good pitches to hit, being aggressive early in the count, those type of things. I think, and again, we establish that from day one in spring training. Sure, in professional baseball, you have to have a mark, and they go by batting average a little bit. But I think if we establish that early, a guy can hit 4-line drives, and to me, he's got 4 quality at bats. A guy can go 2 for 4 and have two kind of like soft hits. And basically, the guy who had 4-line drives and 4 quality at bats had the better day. And I think that's instilling that each and every day. So we keep track of that with the Cardinals. We count with a run around second, getting them over to third. Infield back, run around third, getting them in, sacrifice bunt. Seeing 7 or more pitches, you're getting the pitcher deep into the count. I mean, there's so many things that go along with a quality at bat. You hit a line drive, that's a quality at bat. So, we talk about those things, and I think once the players buy into it, I think, and that's the important thing, is getting the players to buy into it. And as an organization, if you set that tone and you set that standard early, the players will buy into it. And I think that in itself will instill confidence in a game. We deal with failure every single day.
Coaches, what a great learning experience here. Think about it. Instead of having your players keep batting averages or your parents or anybody else, why not keep the quality at bats? Pick 7 quality at bat things that you can do. Like you said, whether it's moving a guy over, whether it's 6 pitches in an at bat, whether it's a hit, whether it's a sacrifice fly. Pick all the positives, and then every time they do one of those in an at bat, put a Q next to their name. And that way, if they get 2 out of 4 Qs, now they're batting .500 when it comes to quality at bats. Now, if they can do that at the major league level, we can certainly start doing it at the volunteer, at the youth league level, at the high school level, probably more important there because we need to be a lot more positive at the younger levels because positive keeps people and players in the game. And I think our goal around the world is to grow the game even more, keep players in the game, recruit players more. So we are going to end the show on that great note. I want to thank both, Roger and Bertrand for being here. First of all, Bertrand, thank you very much. You've been a great friend. And just say a couple words before we come off the show.
Yeah, it was, as every time, a big pleasure to have you at our second time clinic, and, I'm right now, I'm just 50, and I'm 50, and it's the time I'm knowing more about the game than in the past. So the end is not coming. I have a lot of years before me to learn a little bit more about the game. But I wanted to thank Roger to coming to my clinic, and he did a great job, and all the players and the coaches appreciate what he did, and Pete too. And I wanted just to finish with something about quality at bat that you were talking. It's as coach here in Europe, we are not playing so much game than in US, because the season is a little bit shorter sometimes, and we play. Is that the most important? And about quality back as coach, I don't care about individual average. I don't care of my player what they do. What I'm more watching on is what they do for the team, what they produce for the team, how they have an impact on the team, and I want that they think that they are, some active member of the team, and not just coming to make sports, put the bag in the dugouts, make a practice, and go home. No, I think the most we can get some great result if we make them think about the game, each other as player, and how they are concerned about the game, and how can they have an impact about the team. And if we can do that, doesn't matter about the result of the game. You make the game fun, and you make better player. You make the thing easier for a coach.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. And Roger, this is the first time I met you. I've heard from Tom O'Connell, who is our president at the International Sports Group. We'll get into the International Sports Group in one of our other shows and tell you all about what they do around the world to help coaches develop much better. I had a thrill. I learned a lot from you. What was neat about it is that, I didn't know you, but I felt like I've known you for 10 years now. It's been a thrill. I learned a lot. I just want you to, tell us a little bit about what you think about what happened this weekend and anything else that you want to say.
I think this weekend was great for me, not only for the opportunity to work with for the French players, but also an opportunity to get to know Bertrand more and yourself more. I was just very impressed with both of you, not only your passion for the game, and I look forward to being with you and talking to you in years to come. Hopefully we can meet again in spring training and work together again. My advice to coaches is this. The biggest advice I ever got was from my friend Walt Riniak, who I felt was one of the better hitting coaches in the game. And Walter had a passion for the game and a love for the game, and no one outworked him. And his biggest advice he ever gave to me is to show the kids you care. And showing you care, whether the guy goes 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, whether he's 0 for 10 or 5 for 10, it doesn't matter. Be there for the players, single every day in and day out. And when you do that as a coach and you show them you care, your passion will come out, and the players will be better for it in the long run. So I just want to leave you with that. And again, I look forward to working with both of you down the road.
Thank you, Roger. And for all our coaches around the world, I hope you're, getting the impression that baseball is growing globally. You have been a big part of that. Continue to educate yourself, because your education is extremely important to the development of all our players around the world. So we hope that you continue to do that. So thanks for being on the show, both of you. Thank you to everybody around the world for listening. And remember to check out our Twitter at Inside Pitch Show. Don't forget our Facebook, The Inside Pitch with Peter Caliendo. And our webpage, theinsidepitchpodcast.com. And listen, you can also email me if you want to know more about Bertrand. Get his email, be able to email him. Same thing with Roger. Email me at peter@insidepitchpodcast.com. Remember, education of coaches is the key to success to developing players. I'm your host, Pete Caliendo. Have a great coaching day and see you on the next show.
This has been The Inside Pitch with Peter Caliendo, a Lineup Media Group production. Get access to all of our podcasts like Youth Baseball Talk, You're on the Clock NFL, and Let's Get It On with famed MMA referee Big John McCarthy and Sean Wheelock. Online at lineupmediagroup.com and on iTunes and Stitcher.